It's a slow time of year for music news. Not a ton going on. A couple of announcements for festivals and things, but Spike Lee did an interview with Consequence of Sound, and I found one thing he said in particular to be super interesting, and I just thought, man, that he brings up such a great point. We're coming off of, I feel like this is the height of interest in music biopics. There have been a ton of great ones out there, but no doubt about it, Bohemian Rhapsody, I think we're seeing the absolute height. I'm not saying that Bohemian Rhapsody is the absolute best. I know a lot of critics panned it. I know a lot of people really liked it. It grossed really well. The soundtrack did tremendous. It obviously boosted Queen's overall place in music, which is hard to do because they were up there at the top anyway. But what I'm saying is now we're seeing a lot of music biopics greenlit. We're seeing a lot of music documentaries in the works. I don't think the hysteria has ever been this big. It could probably get bigger, but it's definitely been the biggest it's ever been. I mean, I remember the Johnny Cash, what was the one with him and Joaquin? That was big, and Ray was big. There was a lot around Ray, but I feel like this has been and of course because it's building on the back of those previous music docs that have been so good. But Spike Lee brought this up in this interview, and I thought this was so fascinating. He said that the two artists that would be damn near impossible to do music biopics on are Prince and Michael Jackson, because who would play those roles? And, it's super interesting. I mean, it's something like you think about it, it's almost like Elvis, right? How many movies have Elvis in it? And it's when you're dealing with entities like Prince, Michael Jackson, Elvis, like these larger than life categories, it's really, really hard to play that role and not be doing a caricature of that person. You know what I mean? Like, it is really difficult. You think about go to Vegas and you'll bump into as many Michael Jackson impersonators as you do Elvis impersonators these days. It's crazy. And more Michael Jackson impersonators there that you can shake a dead cat at. So that's the thing. Like, you don't want to do this caricature-y impersonation thing that usually never works on the big screen. You'd have to find somebody who's relatively unknown. And I think to Spike's point, that's kind of what he's saying. He says, and I quote, "Not that I've been asked to do it, but for me, I just can't get past who's going to play Prince, who's going to play Michael Jackson. I can't. All I can do is documentaries, but a film, I just can't get past who. Not to say, it could be an unknown." So to his point, in the current, universe of actors, there's nobody there to play those guys. Nobody. Freddie Mercury comes up, Rami Malek, relatively well known, the robot, Mr. Robot on USA, he's got some heat behind him. You look at him, oh, okay, maybe. Then you start to see some of the tests and stuff, and you're like, wow, this guy's going to be great, right? Who's that person for Michael Jackson or Prince? I think Prince is even harder because he was such a unique guy. He walked like nobody else. He spoke like nobody else, right? It would be kind of, I think, maybe a little bit, I shouldn't say a little bit easier, because you could put, there's key signature Michael Jackson outfits, there's key Prince outfits, so that would help, it certainly helped Rami to be in the t-shirt there for Freddie Mercury, but again, who comes to mind really that could play those roles and do a really good job at them? I also think that Michael Jackson is in particularly difficult because there's just so much there. One of the big criticisms for Bohemian Rhapsody is, it's all kind of jammed together. And it's hard when you're dealing with such a large subject matter. You can make a 7-hour movie on Michael Jackson. It's not going to drive audiences. You got 2 hours, 2.5 max, if it's a real amazing script. It's certainly a story worth telling, though, right? I mean, the absolute craze and stardom and his childhood. Michael J. There's just too much there. I don't know if we'll ever see a Michael Jackson biopic. I really don't. Could do it like the way they did, the way Andre 3000 did the Jimmy thing, you know, just like a little, it's like a little snippet. You could do those, but to tell the full story, I mean, it's never going to happen. It's almost impossible to do so. You know, we're kind of seeing that right now with Steve Jobs. There's been like 4 Steve Jobs biopics. They're all kind of, you know, telling little different slices. But Spike brings up a great point. I mean, who the hell would play these guys? Spike's done 2 documentaries on Michael Jackson, Bad 25 and Off the Wall. He says one day maybe he'll get to do Thriller. Back in October, it was reported that Ava DuVernay and Apple are both currently working on 2 separate documentaries to tell the story of Prince's life. And on Bohemian Rhapsody, Spike Lee says, "I will tell you this," he says, and I quote here, "I don't care what the critics say, expletive them. I love Bohemian Rhapsody. Rami Malek did his thing. I mean, I like that film a lot." So there you go. Spike likes Bohemian Rhapsody despite what most critics say, which I think the big critique is it just wasn't gritty and true enough. Didn't tackle a lot of big subjects in Freddie's life, and you're not going to get that. Like I said, we knew that going in as soon as the band got involved, and they were going to tell their part of the story. It's why Martin Scorsese dropped out of the Frank Sinatra biopic, right? How exciting was that news? Scorsese telling the Sinatra story. He couldn't tell it the way he wanted to. The family wanted the final say. Scorsese's like, I'm out. I'm not going to do that. It's got to be done the right way. A lot of the times, the people you're making these documentaries on, they can't be involved production-wise because you'll never get like that true storytelling. That would be good, though. I am fingers crossed that Scorsese gets back involved with the Sinatra family one day. We'll see. That's your biggest music news story of the day today. Hope you enjoyed that. Thoughts welcome. Definitely comment. Would love to hear what you think on who could play those roles. Nobody comes to mind for me.